Hey, welcome Keshava Maharaj.
All right. Welcome everyone for joining. Priya, Aditi, Nitya Kishori, Parameshwari. Thank you everyone for joining. We're just going to give a few moments for some more people to join. And then we've got two very, very special guests today that we're going to introduce you to. So just tell us on the chat where you're, you always tell us where you're coming in from. Why don't you give us one word in terms of how your day went today? How did your day go? Was it a good day? Was it a bad day? Was it an exciting day? Give us one word and tell us how it went today. Verma, welcome. Rahi, thank you so much for joining. Thank you everyone for joining. It was a great day. Okay. Thank you, Anne-Maria. And we got someone from South Africa. Wonderful. A productive day. That's good. Yeah, it's great to have a productive day. Wonderful. Another productive day from Angela. Kiran had a awesome day. Always a good day. A healing day, Chinto. Okay, wonderful. Nairobi. Someone in Nairobi did the early morning meditation at 4:30. That's wonderful. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll just give it a few more moments while we get our second guest on the call today, and then I'm going to be really, really happy to introduce both of them to you. Sash, thank you. You had a sweet day. Today I was back at the monastery. I've been traveling. I was in Belgium last week, and then I went to Leicester, and it's just nice to be back at the monastery. I guess I call it my home, although monks, we're always moving. So I don't know if we have anyone home. We're kind of no fixed abode, but it does feel like home because I spent many years here, and so I'm just happy to be here. We had an early morning start. Our day here at the monastery starts at 4:30, and so it was really good, and it was a productive day for me as well. I was answering emails and WhatsApp messages and creating some new content and catching up on some projects. Emily, welcome. Thank you for joining. Suzanne, thank you for joining. Suzanne's one of our regulars. Really, really appreciate you taking the time. Isha. Raj, have we got Vish coming on?
I'm just trying to add him on.
Okay.
It should have invited him now, but yeah, if you're inviting...
Okay, yeah, Vish Patel has joined, so I think you should be able to get him.
Oh, great, perfect.
The screen gets scattered for her. Are you referring to Anne-Maria's screen, is it? I hope not. Okay, yeah. Hopefully Anne-Maria's connection will last.
Vish, if you send a request to join, Vish, if you could just send us a request to join the live. And if you're not rejoining the live, please, can you cancel your requests? Got a few requests.
Although we would like to have everyone on. One day we'll have many more of you on. Mukunda Hari, thank you for joining. Hey, Kaylee, thank you for joining, taking the time. Suzanne, thank you.
Kaylee is a wonderful singer. Shout out to Kaylee, it's amazing. I love his songs. Climbing up the wrong wall, wrong ladder. Yeah, Vish, we're just waiting for you to send us a request. If you could send us a request to join the Insta.
Okay, while we're getting Vish on, we can just give a little bit of an introduction. So welcome to everyone. We hope you're enjoying the Think Gita course. We hope you're enjoying some of the lives and some of the content that we're trying to share with you. As you know, we're on a mission to share wisdom that breathes, and it really breathes when we discuss it between ourselves and have these open forums where we can share. So please keep your comments coming through. And today we got a really, really special evening lined up. And what we thought we'd do is bring onto the forum today two of our amazing, spiritual seekers, spiritual, well, not just seekers, finders, practitioners. And I'd like you to welcome both of them. You can show them some love with some claps and some hearts. First, I'd like to introduce to Anne Maria. And she's done the Think Gita course previously. She's a life coach and so much experience. And she's even spent some time here at our monastery in Watford, and she may share some of those experiences with us. So thank you, Anne Maria. Thank you for coming on.
Hare Krishna, thank you for having me.
And where are you coming to us from today?
From East London.
Okay, from East London. Okay.
Yeah, not too far.
Not too far. Wonderful, wonderful. And we'd also like to introduce you to Vish. Vish has also previously studied the Bhagavad-gita course with Raj, Mukund, all of you know. And he's also, he's been on his journey. He's seen a lot in life. He's very successful. And he also recently did the Be a Monk challenge at our monastery. And I'm sure he had many insights. So thanks, Vish, for joining. And thank you for being so open to share your insights. And of course, all of you know Raj. Raj is he's one of the regulars here, regular facilitators, and does so much. And we really appreciate you as well, Raj. Thank you for coming on. So yes, this evening we're discussing the inner Arjuna, and we just wanted to kind of dig a little bit into all of your journeys and ask you how the inner Arjuna and Arjuna's journey in the Bhagavad-gita, how does that relate to your life? Does it relate to your life? Can you draw the parallels? And maybe I'll begin with Anne Maria. Maybe you can just share with us a little bit about what kickstarted your journey. And just like Arjuna had that moment where he began like questioning everything, did you have like an Arjuna moment in your life, or was it kind of just something that grew over time? And what triggered your spiritual search?
That's a very good question. I think it's definitely been a journey. So I'm not originally from the UK. I came here when I was 20. So like most of the people, you know, you're told, okay, go to university, get a good degree, get a good job, you know, work your way up to the ladder, get a house, get, you know, all of this kind of stuff. So I went through those motions and worked very hard. You know, the years have gone by actually quite quickly if I think about it. And actually it was in 2019 where I was always been passionate about psychology, always wanted to know the human behavior, human emotions. So I got qualified as a life coach in 2017. And at that point, I was actually working for a very good tech company and doing coaching at the same time. So, you know, I thought, oh, this is great. This is amazing. I'm so lucky. But actually something was missing. And even though from the outside it looked very good, inside it was missing. It was missing some substance, and I always didn't want to be. I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way, but you know, especially social media, this oversaturated with coaches and some self-made gurus, and for me it was important that I'm not one of them, and I'm listening and I'm coaching from a place of I don't know, taking myself to that place first, and I didn't want to just like get ideas from others and put them into my own words. Anyway, so in 2019 I just had this, you know, I was working very hard, working for the company, traveling a lot. I was very, very tired. And I just felt empty. And my inner Arjuna moment was actually when I answered the calling to attend a yoga teacher training in Bali. And this was a place where I went to in 2016 before. And I was learning about meditation and pranayama and some of the yogic philosophy. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I want to learn more. So this inner calling, I was actually dreaming about it at night. So I was like, okay, I need to explore this because this is something. So I did. And as soon as I subscribed to the course, they accepted me. And my work basically said that they cannot give me the sabbatical. So I had to make a very tough decision between, I was working for this company for almost 4 years, very successful, very good company. So I had to make a tough choice between doing what my soul was calling me to do or doing what, was just very comfortable in life and, just going through the motions. And obviously I did my, I went through on my soul's calling, and that changed everything, actually. That really changed everything. And I definitely went through a life quake, as you named it previously, for sure. Because being on this journey, I really connected and I really pray to God that anything that doesn't belong in my life gets removed. It was a very powerful prayer because very soon after the relationship I was in and I was supposed to marry, my house, my job, everything got taken away. Like everything. But I knew, I always knew, because I also had like amazing teachers on the way. I've always been guided in such a beautiful way and helped through this like life quake. So I kind of hold on to my faith. I knew that this is what I prayed for, and I trusted that this prayer is being answered. So, even going through all of that, I had the opportunity to go back to old jobs, all of that, but I didn't. So I kind of just meditated and I kept praying. So yeah.
Amazing. Hardik is really happy to see you both. She said, great to see new faces. And Chintu, she's saying she really resonates, San Maria, with what you're saying. And I can really resonate with it as well. Last week, we talked about the hero's journey, the heroine's journey. And it all begins with a call to adventure. There's that moment when you got to kind of choose between comfort and aspiration and step out of that zone. And it seemed as though you successfully did it. If you were to say in a very few short words how someone can accept the call to adventure when it comes in their life, what can they do to embrace that? What would you say is your advice for embracing the call to adventure? Because it's all too easy to just deny it.
Yeah, I think to me it's always been the curiosity of knowing what life is about. And I knew that I always kind of knew there's something deeper than just going through the motions, going to work, like doing all of this. And from my own experience, I've done all of that and I still didn't feel a satisfaction. So I still felt like there was something missing, something very, very important missing. So I just trusted that and I surrendered to it. And obviously I meditated and I prayed, I just didn't make the step straight away. But I knew that it wasn't something that I just felt for a week or so. It was persistent, it was there. So yeah. I trusted it. And I always say, from a coach perspective as well, between choosing comfort and choosing discomfort, always choose discomfort, because this is where you're going to grow. You're not going to grow in your comfort. Obviously take calculated risks. So don't take any, depending on your own situation as well. But I always say be brave and embrace life, because, life is too short and you never know. It's better to, whether to ask what if, to say, yeah, I did it. And this is what I learned.
I remember when I joined the monastery, one of the monks, he said, it's a risk, but better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And I was like, I'm becoming a monk here. You sure that line's for me? And he said, no, it's better to try and, rather than live with the regrets. I always say that the pain of discipline is uncomfortable, but the pain of regret is unbearable, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for, I think everyone's like really resonating with what you've said. Rai Heath really appreciates, she said it was a brave step. And Travel With Me Love is saying it's like magic waiting for you around the corner. So thank you so much. And we're going to dig a little deeper. Vish, did you have a call to journey, a call to adventure in your life? Where did it all begin for you?
Firstly, Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'd like to say my journey kind of resonates with Anne-Marie's as well. I had the comfortable life, I thought, of living in a marriage. I had two beautiful children. One's 11 and one's 8. At the time, they were around about 5 and 8 respectively. And I was in a long-term marriage, doing the life, working, coming home, doing the kid thing, dropping them to school, and yeah, pretty much what everyone else was doing. There wasn't any issue with it. I loved being a family man. It was just there was always feeling of something that was missing. I couldn't put my finger on it, so I thought it was actually more material desires. And so ultimately, as you do, you go out. So I'd go out drinking, going partying, doing a lot of those things, trying to satisfy the void that I thought I had. I did, and you carry on, and it keeps going, and your temptations get worse and worse, and it's just a cycle. It's a vicious cycle, basically, and you never actually. I'd say you never see the light. It actually gets worse, and the more you crave, the deeper you go into that sort of negative spiral. So it kind of hit ahead. I believe COVID obviously instigated a lot of it, because it kind of made me sit still and realize in that period of time when there was no work, there's no distractions, which generally from a day-to-day, as a family man, there are so many distractions. It just, you can just forget about your actual purpose as such. And in COVID, a lot happened, and it forced me to kind of make a drastic decision. And I separated from my partner, ex-wife now. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, because having 2 kids, to do that is, the most mentally challenging situation in my life, from having them full time to having them, at the time was less than 2 days a week, was probably the most pain I've ever felt in my life. However, it was a tough time. I went through it, and I managed to find someone to help me on the journey. And I think there was always a bit of a desire that I had a desire for Krishna. I love praying, and I did it every night. Obviously, not as much as I do now, but I had that desire. I just didn't have anyone to kind of help me on the path of spirituality, to come with me to the temple, or to do the religious aspects that I really appreciate now. And I think it was probably when I was separated, I was just going through a lot of things. I was meditating a lot, just to try and, I used to meditate just to pretty much block out thoughts rather than deal with them. So I'd be like, oh, you're not going to think about this. You don't want this coming to your brain. You don't want that. So what I realized I was doing, I was just suppressing emotions to get through the day. And then I think at one point I was, there's a funny story, because actually I moved into my house. I went through a divorce, a new build house. And at the same time, they say those are probably the 2 worst things to do in your life, and they did at the same time. So I know I can get through anything after doing that. And I was sleeping alone in my house. My kids were with my ex-wife at the time. And out of nowhere, the Maha Mantra from Janvi Harrison was playing on the speakers directly above my head. It was the middle of the night. It was blaring loud. I actually was scared. I wasn't like rejoicing. I was actually scared. I was like, what's going on? Because, automatically thinking, is someone here, or, is there some sort of presence? So at the time I couldn't sleep, and it took me, a long time to understand what happened. But when I actually spoke to devotees about it, they said to me, embrace it and don't be scared. This is a sign and you should actually pursue it. And then after that, I think automatically a lot of things started happening because I was attuned to opening myself to listening to devotees, and obviously I'd come to the temple, come to the manor more often. And then I think through the meditation, it's been a nice gradual journey. From last January doing the Gita class with Rajiv, when I had no knowledge about the Gita, I just knew that it was a book that I had to understand. And the actual online classes allowed me to have that understanding and the wisdom to kind of utilize it in my day-to-day now. I then take another step since, and I think also Food for Life was a great thing because the Gita taught us to do seva, and automatically on the back of it you can get involved quite quickly. And I think that's when I met you, Maharaj, which also you gave me a lot of guidance, so I appreciate you for that, and Rajiv as well. And then this January doing the monk challenge, which I did for a week, and it's a gradual thing where I think it was actually meant to happen. And then next week I'm going to Vrindavan, so it's
Wow.
I wouldn't say I'm in the deep end. I'd say it's actually a gradual swim, and I feel very, very happy when I'm in the manor, and my mind now is so at ease about anything around me. Materialism doesn't affect me like it used to, and I'm also quite content not having to take on too many burdens of the day to day. I kind of let it wash away, and I know at the end of the day Krishna's there for me. And I think these are the things I've learned going from a tough time to coming out on a time when now I feel very, very much, I feel comfortable knowing who I really am. So I'd say, that's been my journey.
Amazing, Vish. It's such a, well, we really appreciate your honesty and your openness here, because that's why we're here this evening. We want to hear the human journey, and it was kind of like that for Arjuna. We talked about him having almost like an existential breakdown, where you kind of like, and for you it must have been like that. Your family life took a big change, your career, your sense of what your future would look like. It's almost like very quickly things seem to be breaking down. But in that existential breakdown, you almost had this spiritual breakthrough. And I always appreciate, and Raj, you must see this because you share the Bhagavad-gita with a lot of people, and you must see how when times get difficult, like the wisdom almost feels all that more relevant. And that's when you really see how powerful this knowledge is in terms of transforming pain into purpose and problems into progress, which we often say. But I don't know if you want to share something about that, like, yeah, how wisdom just becomes relevant in the challenges of life.
Yeah, it's amazing, like how when we're going through a difficult time and we're going through certain things, it's like that wisdom kind of really speaks to you, and you can kind of really make it a part of your life. It's almost like every word is speaking to you, and it makes it so relatable. And I think from what I've seen on people's journeys, and even for myself, is, it's almost like it's always set up in a way where that situation that you're in, whenever you need it the most, that wisdom will appear, that calling will appear, and just tuning in, it's just like a radio frequency. You're just tuning in and hearing that message. And I've had so many stories about similar to Vish's, and I just want to say thank you both for being so honest and so open with sharing, because I think everybody's resonating with it, and even myself. And I've had so many stories where people have been struggling or having through a difficult time, and even that's how it came to me as well. And then that's just like a spark has just changed the direction of their life, or it just changed their consciousness in a way where they've connected to spirituality, they've become more grounded, and they've grown in that way. And it's almost like it's almost like a growth where you feel sometimes is when it's like a volcano, that destroys everything, but what's left is like an ashes, which then form really fertile land to then grow. And you see, you see that once things are destroyed, once things are taken, actually that leaves such amazing growth, because you remember your past experiences, but actually you then put it into perspective, where you get vision and foresight, and you can see things like somebody asked me this week, like, I went through something in February, something really bad, and how can I explain what the reason it's happened to me? And all I could say was, by studying the Bhagavad-gita or having vision and foresight, it allows you to see why you went through what you went through in the past, and changes your future, because you then make different decisions, and you're more in tune to your true self.
Amazing, yeah. And Maria, I wanted to ask you, when you first read the Bhagavad-gita, because you're a coach, you've kind of been in touch with like wisdom and, self-development. What was your first impression of the Bhagavad-gita? Was it immediately like something which fascinated you, or was it difficult, or did you find it religious or spiritual? Like, what was your feeling?
So I used to work in Soho Square. It's just around the corner from the Hare Krishna temple. And I had a Bhagavad-gita in my house for about 5 years, I think. When I first started, when I tried to open it and I read a little bit of it, I was like, this is difficult. I don't know what this is, but I tried to read it, but I basically couldn't. But that book has always been with me. And actually, I think I had to go through, the journey that I kind of went through, which is what Rajiv just said, kind of that volcano which is burning a lot of the things. So sometimes when we go through the difficulties, what I found from my own journey, and I'm nowhere there, but the more I work on like keeping my ego in check, the better it is for me to learn. So I had to go through some stuff in order for that ego to kind of dissolve, such as lose those things and lose some of the things that created a bubble around me. But when I picked up the Bhagavad-gita, it's actually a very interesting story that in 2020, obviously COVID happened. And during that year, it was a difficult year because my brother had an accident, which thankfully he recovered from. But I was meditating and I was praying so much during that time. And, I just kind of got sick of the like just the usual life, going out, and I didn't want that anymore. And I was supposed to fly home for Christmas. Literally my flight got canceled the same day, and I was so upset. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So I did some research, and I actually, through Jay Shetty's wife, she posted something about Food for Life. So I started, I inquired about Food for Life. So I was like, okay, if I'm in London, I just want to be there every day, and I want to be out and working with the homeless. And then I got in touch with Rajiv, obviously, and he told me about the course, the Think Gita course. And I don't know, something like when I opened it and when I started studying it with the group, because I think on my own I couldn't, it would have been very, very like it just couldn't. But being part of the group and having it explained in such a relatable way, because I think a lot of people might look at it and think, oh, this is like a religious book. But actually when you start and when you're studying with the group and you break it down, you realize how, and it's just so much interrelated with coaching and some of the things that we're being told and we're being taught. And it's incredible. It's such an incredible book. So as soon, I think it was after a week or two, was it Rajiv, when I was like, I want to know more about Krishna. And I just had this, like, so much love. And like, then I got the Krishna book, which literally I wanted to read for 6 hours a day. I didn't want to put it down. It was like this instant attraction for me, which was very powerful. But definitely I would say, if I tried to study it on my own, it would have been very difficult to understand. which is why this group is such a blessing, and going through this as a community, and also opening up. There's just so many lessons, and honestly, it's the best self-help book out there, like by mile. It has everything.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that this week on Thursday, about how the Bhagavad-gita is the ultimate kind of self-development based on spiritual development. But yeah, really good to hear your story about how, you know, of course, naturally there was a connection, but to really unlock it through discussion and kind of company of spiritual people. Thank you everyone for being on the call. I'm sure you've got some questions and you've got some things you may want to ask Anne-Marie, Anne-Maria, Vish, and Raj. So please don't be shy. Put it there on the chat, and we'll kind of, they're ready to take any question. I asked them before the session whether they have any reservations. They said we're open books, and whatever you want to ask them. So don't hold back. Vish, I've got a question for you. What resonated with you the most about the Bhagavad-gita? What did you just read and think, that makes perfect sense to me?
I would say, well, I always felt a little lost, and that only was fueled my desire to chase the material things, as I mentioned, to try and fill the void. And I feel when Krishna told Arjuna that the senses are so strong that they may be forcing, to abdominal activities, thereby increasing your desires and having the need to keep doing to only suffer again and again. It felt like the same vicious cycle that I was in, and I know it contributed to the breakdown to my previous marriage as well. So it is something that resonates with me massively in terms
and that's such a huge thing today.
materialism.
Yeah, no, thank you, Vish. That's such a huge thing today, isn't it? Like the senses and temptation, and we even see in the world that like 12-step recovery and all of these things are becoming such an important thing, because it's almost like this world is so agitating and provoking, and always feeding the senses with so many things. And I always felt that the Bhagavad-gita just describes the human condition so powerfully. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
And I also say one more thing, that I think the ultimate goal is to get to a place when your temptations are in control, and obviously that'll take a long time, and when your mind can just be at peace regardless of what's around you. And I think that's also a big verse in the Bhagavad-gita, which I would love to have as my goal in the future, to get to that headspace where I can just be at peace with regardless of what's around me and the material desires, etc.
Yeah, that is, yeah. We often say the wealthiest person is not the one who has the most, but the one who just needs the least. So that inner, in Sanskrit they say santushta, which means completely satisfied. That's such a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing, Vish. Verma says that when she read the Gita first time, she closed it halfway through and ran around the house shouting, "It's got all the answers." Wow, that's real awakening. Thank you for sharing, Verma. Raj, was there any question which you had in your mind that when you've opened the Bhagavad-gita, it's just been answered by the Bhagavad-gita? Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, a lot of times when you're like going through something, I feel like this book is directly speaking to me. And one of the things I kind of noticed was, especially at a young age, when I would observe people around me who were like always happy and always like really content. And then two examples I have is one, my chemistry teacher, and I don't know why, but she was just always really happy, and I was like, this is interesting. Like, she's just like, nothing phases her. And the other person was my grandma, and it was just perplexed. Like, well, what makes these guys tick so much? Like, what makes them so happy and centered? And then as I read the Gita, I kind of understood that the essence was having that loving relationship with God, having that inner fulfillment and inner practice. And I noticed that both these people had that, and it kind of just made sense, like to me, actually, you know what, is if you want to go to a deeper space, then you have to sort out your connection with God or the universe, or I guess whatever you're looking at it. But in the Bhagavad-gita describes as with Krishna. But yeah, I never used to believe it, until I actually read the Gita. I remember having an argument with my uncle about this, and actually we had an argument about it. And I was like, I thought he was talking nonsense, and he was like, no, read the Gita and you'll understand. And I did, and it kind of changed my view. It's yeah, you just have to kind of really experience it yourself.
Yeah. It's amazing. Sometimes people say they have a question and they just open the Bhagavad Gita somewhere, and it's almost like if you're really tuned in, then it just like it jumps out at you, and it's almost like a living text which speaks to you in the moment. And when we read the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna talks about his fear of actually relationships, because he's looking at everyone on the battlefield and he's thinking about, how potentially a lot of these relationships are going to end. And Vish, there's a question for you that's come in from Satish, and he's just asking that you came to that point, obviously, where a relationship was coming to its end, and naturally that can create a sense of loneliness. So how did you navigate that, and did your spirituality help you to deal with that? Because naturally you have this thing in your life, this relationship, and then it's gone, and then it can leave a vacuum. How did you deal with that?
Yes, hi. It wasn't easy. Obviously, it was a very difficult situation, going through separation during COVID. And it's also filling the time, which normally if you have obstacles like, well, when you're working, you can kind of take away some of that hurt, because that keeps you busy. So it was more, I'd spend a lot more time doing meditation. I wouldn't say it was meditation specifically about Krishna. It was more like meditation and doing a bit of yoga. I was trying to do some breath work. I was doing a lot of that stuff to kind of realign my mind, because my mind was all over the place. I was going through a lot of things, loneliness. Obviously, I was very uneasy at what was ahead of my life when everything was going in one direction. Now it's going to another direction. And then I was kind of like asking a lot of people advice. And I think also you kind of look to other people to help you when they don't really know how to be in this situation. So the advice you get from different people actually can kind of take you off course when really and truly, I think when you go deep, whether you meditate, whether you chant, whether you do breath work, whether you do yoga, whether you even spend some time at the temple or meet, fellow devotees, or even with your friends, I think that's probably the best way to not get over it, but kind of ease it. And eventually it takes time, and your mind will get there with the practice, and you won't even need to ask anyone. The answers will be within you. So I think from my point of view, obviously nothing happens overnight. These situations, they take time, but time is also a healer. So I don't know if that answers your
Thank you.
question,
That's amazing. I really resonate with what you said. I think even modern science says that loneliness is more harmful for your health than smoking like 30 cigarettes a day. And I think your point about just being around people, being active, doing inner work, meditation, yoga, breath work, and just staying active is a really, really is such a wonderful point. And PCOM21, she's kind of verifying that. She said she's always listened to mantras and things like that, and that's helped her. Travel with me, love, Daphne. She has a question, and I'll throw this out to you, Anne-Maria. She said she's had the experience. She says it's an awkward experience, almost a mystical experience, of reading the Bhagavad Gita and almost going into like a meditative state. Have you ever had any experiences like that while reading spiritual books or exploring wisdom?
I can say yes. Yeah, definitely. I kind of like to set my mood as well when I read spiritual books. such as having mantras in the background, having my candles on, or like an incense stick. So that to me already, like reading, it's like a meditation. But especially living at the temple, I used to read before going to sleep, and then obviously when you wake up, you go to Mangalarti, or you read a chapter or two of Bhagavad-gita. And I was dreaming about certain things, and I had certain dreams because of that. I mean, I didn't go like deep into meditation by reading Bhagavad-gita, but I definitely went into like a really nice, it was just me and the book, which is very special actually, very, very special. And I was fortunate enough to live at the temple when the temple was closed to the outside. So I would go into Srila Prabhupada's room and just read there, which was again like extremely. There are some moments which I will never forget, and I'm very grateful for. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
No, I mean, it's beautiful. Yeah, I think yeah, we all have a different experience, and it's interesting what Daphne talks about in terms of going into a meditative state while you're reading. Christian monks used to do something called Lectio Divina, which was a deeply prayerful type of reading in which they would read a verse and just try to deeply meditate on it. And yeah, it's a beautiful, it's a profound thing. Thank you. These are great questions. We're getting so many questions coming in, and I'm going to put one up now. And throw it out to you, Raj.
Yeah, go for it. Okay.
Yeah, Emily. Thank you, Emily. Emily is such an inspired kind of spiritualist. She's been really contributing in many ways, and she's asking, how do you continue? Because you might have experienced this. How do you continue on your journey and stay inspired, stay determined, stay focused? When the people around you who you really value and who've been with you your whole life don't necessarily value your spiritual journey, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and it's interesting because it can feel quite alien to people when you're going through a spiritual journey, and for them it's very much like, this is so different. It's you're not doing the norm, you're not doing what you should be, you're not watching Netflix as much, you're waking up early, you're meditating now, and but actually I found like the best thing is to the character that you bring out, or the change that it brings out in you. Definitely eventually they become more and more accepting of your spiritual life, or they kind of end up resonating more. And actually the reverse can happen. What can happen is that they start becoming spiritual because they see the impact in your life. They see, so we say, the inner Arjuna, like the calling. But actually when we see the inner Arjuna coming out, and we see that actually that connection where you're connecting with them on a deeper level, where you're forming loving relationships with them through your spiritual practice, and you should have that, you should always endeavor to try and care for the family as well. So like, do your house chores, even more, or maybe give them a bit of a spiritual experience as well, and whatever way that they feel they can connect with. I remember my uncle was quite spiritual, and we used to think like, okay, oh my God, my uncle is like spiritual, here we go again. He's always going to be talking about meditation and the Bhagavad-gita, and he gave me a Bhagavad-gita when I was a kid. And what's interesting now is now I'm that uncle who gives other people Bhagavad-gitas. So that's changed, but I'm grateful for him at that time. But at that time I thought, okay, this is a bit strange, but things kind of made me realize, because that helped me most when I needed it. And it's interesting because when you have that spiritual aspect, you'll be able to be there for people when they need it most, and you'll be able to be their center. Because what can happen is they realize how centered you are, and when there is a problem or when things are going wrong, they'll end up turning to you. And that's a really nice place to be, because you're helping them with compassion. So I would say stay strong, carry on in the journey, but have compassion for them, and try and show them your best side, show them the effects it's having, the spiritual side is having. I hope that helps them.
Amazing, yeah. I could see when you were saying that you're speaking from experience and you've seen it in your life, and it is amazing. It's how people in the beginning, they're a little standoffish, they're a little apprehensive, maybe a little skeptical, but when they see the change in you, they really begin to appreciate it. But you got to be patient and you got to be understanding. Thank you. Emily also says thank you very much. It's been an amazing evening. We've had like a captive audience of over 115 people. It's been amazing to hear your journeys. We talked about how you guys begun your spiritual journey. We talked about your Arjuna moments. We talked about how you got deeper into the Bhagavad-gita, what resonates with you in the Bhagavad-gita. And yeah, you shared so much practical things with us. I'm going to end by asking Vish and then Anne-Maria, and then we'll finish with Raj. What is your favorite? Do you have a favorite verse or a favorite philosophical point that really touches you from the Bhagavad-gita, or something that you'd like to share with everyone, which really for you brings out the beauty and the power of the Bhagavad-gita, Vish?
Yes, so I'm just going to read it out because I don't know it word for word. But my favorite verse that resonates with me as well in terms of what I've learned on this journey is chapter 2, verse 70. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires, that enters like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can all alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desire. This is a verse that I truly wish and aim to, this is my goal in my spiritual journey, to be like this and have that, almost sort of like anything won't affect me, and I can just feel at peace and satisfied and content. And it could be a good example on the people around me as well, who are more, trapped in the material consciousness, that, those things are temporary. And, we as souls have a lot longer to live than what this material body does. So I believe that that's the way we should all be thinking, like how we're going to achieve to do better for the society, for other people, because that ultimately is what's going to make us happier. And I think, this sort of verse kind of starts my journey in terms of not being distracted by all the material things. So then you have more opportunity and time to give to those other things that actually will fulfill you on a spiritual way. And that could be doing seva as well.
Amazing, Vish. Everyone should mark that, put that on the chat. 270, get that one up on your fridge. One who's not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires, but their mind is like an ocean and it never overflows, even though so many rivers are coming in. That kind of stability, that kind of serenity, that kind of depth. Thank you, Vish, for highlighting that. That's such a beautiful meditation, and I think everyone's resonating with that. Thank you so much. Anne-Maria, what about yourself? Anything that you'd like to share? Something that really moves you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's very difficult to choose. Like one of the ideas that I liked, and I also I'm kind of going through that now, is that a true yogi is not necessarily the one that leaves everything behind and goes and meditates in a cave, but it's actually the one that lives in the world and acts normal and still attends to his daily or her daily duties, but at the same time their consciousness is higher, their consciousness is on Krishna, and also they dedicate the fruits of the labors to Krishna. And this is something that very much relates to me, because having been through the extreme of just being career focused and enjoyment and all of that. And then obviously went through a spiritual journey, and I lived 10 months in a temple. It's just kind of bridging the two together. And actually what I learned in my own journey is that spiritual life and corporate world can definitely coexist. And you just kind of have to know how, and obviously be disciplined with your time and your association, and be very intentional about how you live and your everyday decisions. So a lot of people think that you have to give up everything in order to like be a yogi, but no, you don't have to, because Krishna is so kind and he gives us so many different options according to each of our character and our wants and needs, and I find that absolutely beautiful and very, very encouraging as well, because anybody
that's such an empowering message. It's like all three of you are like spiritual warriors. You're kind of out there, you're in the world, you're working, you're interacting with society. Seemingly you're part of the system, but you're actually changing the system through your spirituality and your contribution. And yeah, it's not about escape. Someone used to always tell me, peace is not the absence of chaos, but it's the presence of spiritual consciousness in every situation. And so it's not about ejecting ourselves, but learning how to function in this world and be a positive influence and make a beautiful contribution. And that really is the inner Arjuna. Don't run away from the battlefield. So thank you. And Raj, yourself, what tell us, what touches you?
For me, it's always been the final or the last towards the end on chapter 18, and it's abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. I should deliver you from all sinful reality. Do not fear. And what I kind of understood from that is we end up like having so many different things in our lives, like different religions, you know, like football is like a religion to people, you know, watching films or whatever it is. We kind of have so many attachments, and so many different ways of getting like that pleasure or that nectar or whatever, that thing to look forward to. And I just like that Krishna at the end is saying like surrender unto him, and he should deliver you from sinful reactions. Do not fear. And fear is something I definitely have, and I think a lot of people resonate with, is sometimes we have the fear of the unknown, fear of death, fear of success, fear of doing things. And if you just kind of surrender the results to Krishna and or to God, and you kind of have that mindset where you're like, I'm just going to do whatever I can, but I'm going to do it for a higher purpose. I'm just going to surrender whatever I can to Krishna. Then you kind of lose that fear. You know, you become fearless. And just like Arjuna in the battlefield, he became fearless after hearing the message of the Gita. And yeah, so I said me, Anna Maria, and Vish are kind of like warriors on the battlefield. But one thing I wanted to say was, Keshava Swami, you kind of become a warrior in the spiritual field. And I was thinking about this today, actually. You've kind of given up the worldly duties, and it's not easy to live a monk life. You know, it's very austere and to give up. And I was thinking, like, we would be struggling without having like monks in our lives to give us that guidance. And so what inspired you to, what verses inspired you? And I guess we have to ask you a question, so I maybe take
you're throwing it back in my court, huh? You've taken my job tonight. Well, you've heard me say this before. At the end of the Bhagavad-gita, after Krishna gives all this amazing knowledge, Krishna kind of just looks at Arjuna and says, I've given you all the knowledge. Just think about it, reflect on it, introspect, analyze, challenge it. And then Krishna just looks at him and says, and then do what you want to do. And you know, for me, this is like the mission statement of Think Gita. And it's what really convinced me that the Bhagavad-gita is an amazing book, because it's not Krishna standing there telling you what to think, but it's Krishna standing there telling you how to think. It's Krishna standing there saying, here are some ideas, but now awaken your intelligence. Challenge what the world has told you to be. Challenge what society tells you success is. Challenge all the limitations that people have put upon you, and see whether there's more to the story. And I think by awakening Arjuna's intelligence, spiritual intelligence, with that amazing statement, Krishna is giving us all the opportunity to do the same. And that's why we're all here. You know, we're talking here. We're not here to give anyone any ideas. We're not here to force our opinions upon anyone. But all of this is just meant to help us log off this call and then just really think about our lives and experiment and explore and discover. And yeah, that's what Arjuna did, and he went on the hero's journey. So yeah, that's kind of my little yeah, that's the one I keep on my little, I wouldn't say fridge because I don't have a fridge, but I keep it there in my locker in the monastery, and I remember that one. But Vish and Maria, Raj, you guys have been amazing. We've got so much. Daphne says it's amazing questions. Chinto says tonight's been incredible. Gordon 9780 says thank you. Chan Reiki says thank you. It's been a great session, says official Kushi. So much to learn from all of you. Like, it's wonderful to have all of you on because you bring it to life, you know. And Priya Radhe Sham, loved your reflection, Vish. Yeah, it was beautiful. So yeah, we hope to have all of you guys on again and to share more. And to everyone on the call, you've all stayed all the way through. It's been amazing. We are going to have session number 3 of Think Gita on Thursday at 8 p.m. So if you haven't already signed up, then follow Think Gita on IG. Join up to our community by going to community.thinkgita.org. We've got some amazing things lined up. We're going to drop some, well, I was going to say drop some bombs, but good ones on Thursday. So you guys should be online. We're going to do we're going to share some amazing news with you. And on Thursday, the entire Bhagavad-gita, right? It's about that thick. It's got about 500 pages. In 45 minutes, we're going to give you a complete summary. So be online, be there, and we'd love to have your input. It's going to be a really, really enjoyable session. Any last words from you, Raj, to close us up for tonight?
Yeah, just my gratitude to Vish and Maria coming on today and being so open. And I think it's just incredible when we hear the personal stories, how people are resonating with it so much. And yeah, and again, my gratitude to Keshava Swami as well for being such an amazing soul and guiding us and being our spiritual star to help us grow. So yeah, I wish everybody a good night, and I hope to see you all on Thursday. The exciting announcement is going to be very good, so look out for that. But yeah, see you all on Thursday, and have a very spiritual week.
Maybe someone will have a dream like Vish, and in the middle of the night they'll hear, like, you know, a mantra coming from the heavens, you know. If you do get that and you get a bit freaked out, just get on the phone to Vish. He'll tell you how to process it.
And it's John B. Harrison singing as well. So
yeah, definitely. Thank you, everyone. It's been amazing. Wish you a wonderful evening.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Vish.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.